Got 8 without her, okay?
Somebody keeps muting all the microphones.
Yes, that's going to happen to help to keep it from feedback and echoing. It needs to be done. You could just leave it muted and press the space bar when you want to speak, and you're good to go, Bob.
Okay. Announcement is made that adequate notice this meeting has been given and being conducted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 at sec of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. You can do the roll call, Nora.
Mr. Berkowitz,
I'm here.
Mr.
My
Jaskowitz,
space bar doesn't work.
Here.
Mr. Kaplan,
Here.
Mr. Parikh,
Here.
Mr. Prasad,
Here.
Mr. Reddy,
Present.
Ms. Snyder,
Here.
Mr. Willens,
Here.
Chairman Ira Kane.
Present.
We also have with us the board attorney, Mr. Herniak, the board planner, Mr. Chadwick, and the board engineer, Mr. Holloway.
Present.
Excellent.
Okay, we're going to dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. Meeting is open to the general public. I understand we have no resolutions tonight. Is that correct, Nora?
That's correct.
Correspondence from Jason Riddle. Are they going to be here tonight or not?
I see Jason on.
I am here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So Jason, Mr. Riddle to be formal. What are we doing here? I recognize that there is there's a compassion issue here in trying to find this man a living space. On the other hand, we have a violation by the that has been cited by the zoning department, and your applicant is continuing to be in violation. What's the short-term plan?
Well, actually, we've been, my client's been working actively with the occupant to find a new housing arrangement. The difficulty, as you may or may not be aware, under these current COVID times, there is a current state of emergency. The governor has issued a moratorium on removal of tenants. So even if we were inclined or under the Anti-Eviction Act, which were, if we were to try to seek a lawful eviction here, we would be sort of prohibited until there's been a lift of the stay on the moratorium. That being said, the occupant's aware that he has to move. My client has been meeting with him, filling out all sorts of paperwork for housing assistance, as well as I guess he's age qualified for some sort of seniors living facilities, things of that nature. So we are in the process of undertaking the efforts to get him out. We can't just throw him out. Number one, that'd be in violation of law. But two, even if we went through the court process, so we're just trying to keep an communication with the township, let them know that we're making the good faith efforts to do so. And we are inclined and we will comply with that. As per my letter, once we remove the occupant, we will remove the stove and we'll be in compliance at that point. So that's why we're seeking at least, I put until the end of March. And the reason I sort of put that was, at least on the current governor's order, that's when the moratorium, at least as initially, I think it's March 21st, is set to expire. Now, I don't know if he's going to lift that or not, but our goal and intent is to, find a new housing arrangement as soon as possible, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and see if you have any support from the board. What if we gave you 90 days? We'll give you February and March. We'll give you to May 1st. to find him a place. And then I'm gonna ask the board if they are willing to go along with that. I mean, in compassion, I understand. Times are crazy. Times are absolutely positively crazy to do anything. So, let me see if there's any reaction from the board.
No objection.
I have no objection, Mr. Chairman.
No objection.
No objection. Go ahead. Let's move on.
No objection here.
No objection.
No objection.
Okay, Mr. Riddick, we're gonna give you till, to the first meeting in May, which is when, Nora?
May 5th.
You want a formal motion?
You come back with an answer, okay?
I appreciate that, and thank you, everybody.
It's good seeing you again, Mr. Riddick.
Same here.
Say hello.
Stay well, everybody.
Say hello to Mr. Einhorn for me, okay?
I will. He's in sunny Florida at the moment. I'm a little envious.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my
Well,
God.
make sure you say hello to him in person.
Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion to be moved?
Should we do it by motion?
Okay.
I move the case. I move that case 2023 be moved to May 5th, 2021.
Second
With no
reading.
fur- With no further notice and with whatever expenses
further
are
notice.
required, correct, Mr. Riddick?
Correct.
Yes.
Is there, any discussion?
No.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Application 2043, Justin and Lindsay Poplawski. C variance to construct a one-story addition. The applicant,
Sorry, can't hear you.
Mr. Poplawski, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, you're seeking a variance to construct a one-story.
Correct.
Bear with me 1 second.
Sure.
You have a variance for yards and courts, open deck, building coverage, and impervious coverage, all of which seem to be on the de minimis side. Can you please explain what you would like to do and why you want to do? Is it for family benefit? Is it relatives coming to live with you? Tell us what you want to do.
Sure, it's for a family benefit. We're in a currently a 3-bedroom ranch. We had another child last year, so we've got 3 kids, and looking to put an additional bedroom on, so this way everybody gets their has their own bedroom. So we're in a ranch right now, so it was easiest to expand out instead of building up. So that's what we're looking to do. And again, the purpose is for our family, our expanding family. My wife and I were both lifetime residents in Parsippany, so we stayed here and we want to stay in the town. We love the neighborhood where we are, so we're just looking to add some more space to the house for our growing family.
So it's a bedroom you're adding, and
Right. Yeah, it's a bedroom. Yeah, it's a bedroom that does have a bathroom and closet. With that, we'll be removing a current bathroom as well, so that the number of bathrooms will stay the same. It's just a bedroom suite.
And you're in I'm just looking, you're in an R3 zone, you've got a conforming lot, 15,000 square feet. And no complaints from your neighbors?
No, nope.
Discussed it with your neighbors,
Notices, yeah.
you're not looking for any side yard setbacks or any rear yard setbacks?
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Liza says no grading information has been provided. The grade around the proposed addition is relatively flat. However, if any existing grades are changed, okay, you're going to make sure that your contractor doesn't disturb the runoff or anything like that. If you have any questions, you should consult with Mr. Liza, okay?
Okay. Yeah, we're not planning to change any grading.
Okay, and the roof leader shall not discharge towards the neighboring property, but should be directed to the front yard. That's not a problem?
Correct. Yep. No problem. I'm sorry, the sound is going in and out on our end.
I'm sorry. Any other questions by Mr. Chadwick or Mr. Holloway? Do you have any?
No, the main issue was the drainage, just to make sure that the new leaders and downspouts don't go to the adjoining property.
Yep.
I have no comments. And as you said, they're fairly de minimis in terms of the variance being requested.
Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given this evening? Do you see any hands, Nora?
There are no hands raised.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition or in support of this application?
There's no public present.
Thank you. Would someone on the board please make a recommendation?
Yeah, I will make it. It is a minimum request that is beneficial for the family, and I'm in favor of this application.
Someone like to frame a resolution?
Sure. I will, Mr. Chairman. In application 2043, Justin and Lindsay Poplowski, 7 Hastings Road, Block 177, Lot 5, Zone R3, that we grant a C variance to construct a one-story addition contrary to Section 430-10I, Section 430-35, columns 10 and 13.
Second ready.
Any discussion? Nora?
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Jaskowitz,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Parikh,
Yes.
Prasad,
Yes.
Reddy,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Willand,
Yes.
Hurricane.
Yes. This variance is granted. We will memorialize this at the next possible meeting. Our regular attorney's not here tonight, so I don't know when that will be. It could be at the next meeting, which would be, Nora? Probably the first meeting in February, right? 5th? Something like that.
Our first meeting's February 10th.
We will memorialize this on 10th, most likely, and then you'll be free to get all your paperwork at that point and get started. Okay?
Okay, great. Thank you so
you.
much.
Okay.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
For staying in town. Thank you. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, application 2039, Benjamin Bakis. Fee variance to construct, reconfigure a front addition, rear addition, front porch, stoop, driveway, front walk, patio, and rear stairs. Oh, boy. Mr. Bakis, are you?
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so basically, my family and I, we purchased the house, I think it was 2008, 2009, and we have since outgrown the residence. I have 3 ever-growing children. We haven't really had a dining room. It's just a small eat-in kitchen and a small living room. And the main purpose of the expansion is to get a decent sized living space and a kitchen that my wife can use without problems. So it's a very important project for my family. And we love the town, we love the neighborhood, and we want to stay here and just make the house more livable because we're right on top of one another currently, and it's become a problem.
you are in an R4 zone, which I believe minimum lot six. It appears that you have an 8,000 square foot lot, so that you have a ample space on your lot. The front yard setback that you're requesting is only a foot closer, 2 feet beyond allowed. Your rear yard addition, for some reason, has gone down. I don't understand that. Can you explain that? How the rear yard existing is 20, oh, I'm sorry, you're proposing 18, where it's 20 is allowed. Again, it's the de minimis. The patio, you're requesting 3 feet. Oh, you have a corner lot, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you end up with two yards there. And your building coverage is 24.88, where 20 is allowed. Discuss this with your neighbors. Has any of your neighbors questioned your application?
No.
No? And this is for your growing family?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? No questions?
I have a
Any
couple.
reports here? Go ahead, please.
How big is the deck supposed to be?
The patio in the rear yard?
A patio, excuse me.
Yeah, I believe it is approximately 16 by 16.
Okay. And that neighbor there, is there any bushes or anything that's going to give you some privacy or them privacy?
I have a full height fence in that area, at least up into the point where it has to change to a shorter fence.
Okay. And that neighbor, did you discuss this with that neighbor as far as the fact that you're going to have a patio much closer to the property line?
No, I have not been able to discuss them with that specific detail.
What's the height? What's the full height you're referring to? Is it a 4 foot or a 6 foot? Fence in the back.
Oh, it's a full height. I think it's an 8 foot.
No, can't be an 8.
No,
Is it an 8
can't
foot?
be 8 foot.
Can't
Mr.
be
Bates,
8 foot.
would you consider putting maybe a row of evergreens along there that would grow and give your neighbors a little buffer from the edge of your patio?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
Let me ask
To
you,
consult with the town
Mr. Chairman?
forester as to what would make sense along there. Maybe some arborvitae or maybe some Norway spruce, something that would grow and give the neighbors a natural buffer. Mr. Chadwick,
I was just looking at, and why couldn't it just be twisted so that the long dimension is along the addition and it would move away from that property by, the thing is 15 by 11. That's what the application says. So instead of sticking out 15 feet, it would stick out 11, be more in compliance, and it would have the same space.
For the patio,
Yeah.
that's fine. I have no issues with that.
And the other question I have, the breezeway, is that going to become year-round?
Yes, that was the intent, was to build in that footprint and connect to the garage.
So that all becomes living space.
Yes.
So the living space will consist of a new bedroom and a bathroom. And the front part is what? The kitchen?
The whole first floor in that area that's infilled is going to be living, dining, and a kitchen.
All right.
above the garage, since we have to, because of the way the house, the massing of the house and the roof lines intersect, we have to reconstruct the existing garage. And in doing so, we're planning to put a room above the garage.
When?
When?
Yeah.
With this project. It'll
Okay, that's what I
part of
thought.
this
Okay.
project.
The garage doesn't conform to the setbacks. I think the side yard setback in this zone is R4 zone, right?
Yeah, it's 25.
It's
Yeah.
it's a corner lot, so
It's a side yard, and I think the side yard, I shouldn't go, I think it's 10 feet.
it's 6 feet, I think.
In R4,
is?
it's 6. In the R4, it's 6.
Okay.
Yeah, R4 is 6, John, not
All right,
10.
the reason I brought it up, he'd be back here if he wanted to do what he just described, if it was 10. So he's okay. So you're gonna turn,
You'll turn
I think the R-
patio around, so you don't need a variance on the back, is that correct? Is that what I hear?
yeah. But I think he needs the other variances, and I think your landscaping makes sense too.
Well, if he turns it, he still needs a variance, just less than one.
Right.
Okay, so we turn the patio and we add a small amount of vegetation to buffer the back of the patio for your neighbor. Does that sound reasonable, Mr. Baker?
Yes.
I think it makes it so instead of 3 foot proposed, it's 7 foot. Is that correct?
I think you're right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question regarding the access to the frame garage. Will there be a doorway as part of this development? Put it in now? I know they're talking about the second floor of the garage. I'm just wondering where the access will be to the garage.
Yes, there will be a door to the garage from the dining room.
The same issues that came up with the previous application, all the development and all the roof leaders and drains must be controlled so they're not affecting the adjoining neighbors.
Yes.
Just a real quick question on the addition over the garage, in regards to entryways. There's, I don't see, there's not going to be exterior stairs leading up to that second floor addition to above the garage, correct?
Correct. There's enough space. The garage, existing garage, is large enough to accommodate interior stair.
Okay, thank you.
So there will be exterior access from the backyard to that stair to get up to the bedroom, and there will also be an interior door from the dining room to get to that stair to get up to the bedroom.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening? Nora, any hands?
No hands raised.
If there's nothing else you'd like to add, Mr. Baker, does that complete your application? Mr. Baker, does that complete
Sorry,
your
what was the-
application?
What was the question?
There's nothing else you'd like to add. Does that complete your application?
Yes, this completes my application.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? Any hands, Nora?
No hands raised.
Anybody on the board like to make a recommendation on this one? It seems to be.
So it's de minimis in nature. You agreed to do the changes that we requested. Nobody objecting, so I'll be voting for it.
Okay, so the resolution will include a 90-degree turn on the patio, and the applicant will consult with the town forester about a row of vegetation for a natural buffer, and will ensure that all drainage is done properly. Is that correct, everyone?
Yes,
Yes.
Was that a
Yes.
so moved, Mr. Berkowitz?
it is so moved.
Second, Willens.
Thank you. Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Jaskowitz,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Parikh,
Yes.
Prasad,
Yes.
Reddy,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Willens,
Yes.
Hurricane.
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this hopefully at our next meeting. And then you'll be contacted with your paper so you can proceed. Good luck and I hope everything goes well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Application 2045,
You went back on mute, Bob.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking.
Your audio cuts out, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm on mute because I'm trying to find the page.
While we're waiting, if I could ask Mr. Hofker to contact my engineer, Mr. Miola, who's having trouble logging on. I don't know if there's something we can do about that.
Okay, I'm going to read it off the, this is a C. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. This is the Troy Road C/D variance bifurcated application to construct townhomes. And I believe the attorney is Mr. O'Neill, who I see. You want to take the ball and run with it, Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone. Just want to repeat that we're having a little trouble getting Mr. Miola, my engineer, on the call here. Not sure if somebody can help us out with that.
It's being worked on.
Thank you very much.
Can you have him join via the public link and I'll promote him?
I will get a message to him right after I introduce the application to my first witness. So with that, this is a application for replacing an existing single-family home with townhomes. This is a D variance only. There are no bulk variances. And with me this evening is my first witness is Mr. Kaswada, who I would like to introduce and have sworn.
Could I just ask you, Joe, you said there are no bulk variances.
Yes, that's correct.
You're not making application for them now? Or are you saying that they're subsumed into the D variance?
I'm saying that there are none present.
Oh, for the existing home?
For the proposed townhomes.
You're saying that the lot coverage and impervious coverage all conform to the R3 standards?
That's what we're saying. Yes, it is. Well, I don't know about the, I think this is in the, yes, the R3. Yes, it all conforms with the R3.
Bob, look at the map, please. I mean, Bob, Joe. I'm sorry.
Well, when we get Mr. Miola on, we can go into some detail about that.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
So Mr. Casadwala, I'd like to get him sworn so he can testify.
Mr. Casadwala, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board is true, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and spell it for the record.
Sure. My name is Nakul Kasadwala, Nakul. Last name Kasadwala, Kasadwalak.
And you are representing the applicant, or you are the applicant?
I myself is the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
Mr. Casadwala, could you introduce yourself and the project?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Joe, and thanks board for giving us the opportunity to present you this application. Hope you are doing great and safe during this pandemic time. I would like to start with a little intro on my side. I moved to Lake Hiawatha, Parsippany in 2009, and since then I'll not hesitate to say I love this area, and I will really like that. I really like the neighborhood and the town and all the facility and amenities we have here. I would like to thank one more time to the board for granting me C variance 2 years back for my personal home. In fact, I'm sitting there inside just now. I'm looking forward to improve few other sites also. Team will cover in detail about the whole application also, but I would like to give you the high level overview of the application. 130 Troy Road, Parsippany is the site where there is a lot of opportunity to improve the site and replace the current property, which I will not hesitate to call it is a little bit distressed, because the last owner for almost 15 to 16 years, he didn't took care of it much. And at the time of getting CO also, he has to do few works to get the CO for me. And that delayed the closing, etc. So that is about the property and about the overall location of the property. This is in the block, which is a mixed zone, where behind the property, it is a Route 46, and there are many commercial properties behind it. If I start from the right side, it is Starbucks, Pep Boys, Budget Inn Motels, Hot Bread Complex, then Parsippany Hills Village, and the Arya Village. There is a Route 46. And next to in the property line on the extreme corner, there is a O-zone there, which is approved by the board for the ISKCON temple. And across the property also there is a O-zone, which is commercial use there. So here what we are proposing is the 5-unit townhouses, and we are retaining the residential use, which we feel is of a great value to the site. I live close by also, so once this application is approved, I'll be daily monitoring and visiting the site for the construction. And as a private developer, I love to see that site develop for the future use. So with that note, I would like to hand it back to my team who can further go in detail with the explanation, etc. Mr. Miola is on call with me. He's also trying to join the meeting. I'm trying to help him out also on that.
Well, Mr. Casadwala, I was trying to call him to ask him to join through the public portal, but I guess he was on the phone with you, which is why he didn't pick up. So after I have no more questions for you, and ask you to just hold on to see if the board has any questions for you.
Sure.
I had one question. This is a bifurcated application, correct? It still requires a formal site plan submission.
That's correct, Mr. Holloway.
Mr. Miola is in now.
Oh, thank you. Mr.
Any
Casadwala.
other questions for this witness, or Mr. Oni, are you through with questions of your witness?
I am through. I'm ready to call my next witness.
How about members of the board? Any other questions of this witness?
Yeah, Chairman, this is Casey. I have a question. Nakul, you described the commercial properties around you, basically in the back of the property facing Route 46, and a couple of them on a Troy Road. How about the residential? Can you describe the residential properties around you, or across from you?
Sure. So Mr. Maybe John McDermott will show the picture presentation of that also. So this is the block number 726. So all this property which I mentioned is a commercial property, and the O-zone is the ISKCON temple, and there is only 4 residential I think it's R3 zone, and out of that one is one of the applicant is my property. So on the left there is a resident, on the right there is a resident property, And this property is a 1.2 acre lot with a little weird shape of Z shape, or maybe once the pictorial presentation will come, it will be much clear. And which is touching like Fat Boys, Hot Bread Complex, then Ozone Temple property also, the 3 residential property also. And I think it is touching the Parsippany Hills village also. So this is the mix of the property in that block.
And how about across from you?
So across from me, there is it's a residential property line zone, I will say block, but at the end it's a O zone again. And in front of my property, mainly it's a vacant land. There is nothing there, and a little bit of, if I just do like 90 degree to my property, and I'm facing my property on right side of property, a little bit of other property which is on the opposite side land is coming, but mainly it's a vacant land in front of my property. I'll not hesitate to say 80 to 90% approx guess.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening? Nora, do you see anybody?
No hands.
Still, I know you want to call you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, I'll ask Mr. Miola to testify, have him sworn. You're on mute, Fred.
Do we have him on visual?
He's visually there, but muted.
Okay.
Sir, I can't see you, but I'm going to ask if you could please raise your right hand and repeat an answer. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board is true, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Mr. O'Neill, this is one of your experts.
Mr. Miola is my engineer. I believe he's appeared before this board numerous times, and I would submit him as an expert for engineering purposes.
And I assume his licenses are still in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
Would you please spell your name again so I can have it down for my notes?
Sure. Frederick C. Miola, M-E-O-L-A.
And Mr. O'Neill, he's your engineer?
He's our site engineer, yes.
Thank you.
You may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Miola, could you please walk the board through this application using your exhibits?
Yeah. I think our best place is probably on sheet 2 to start with. On the left side, upper left side of sheet 2 is what's there today, the existing conditions. It shows the 1-story frame stone dwelling and a masonry shed in the left rear corner, an above ground pool, remains of it. It's kind of falling apart, and a horseshoe driveway. As you go closer to the commercial properties to the northeast of us, there's a section that has wetlands on it, which has all been approved by the state and designated, and the buffers associated with it. On the right-hand side of that drawing, you see the proposal. The proposal is to take the improved structures down that are on the property, i.e. the 1-story frame dwelling and the masonry shed, and install 5 townhouses. They would enter and exit from Troy Road. There is more than ample parking, and we show a trash and recycling area with decks off the rear, and the balance of the property, which is the wetlands, will be used for passive uses. I mean, a wetlands area, you can still walk through it and use it, you know, for walking around, but you can't disturb it and do anything else, and you can't pave it and create walkways and pathways. But it's a nice buffer from the residential homes, both us and the 2 homes to the right of us, to the commercial properties to the northeast on Route 46. If you go to sheet 3, you see the grading and drainage plan on the left side of the drawing. The site is graded so that all the water is collected in an underground detention system, an infiltrator system. And the parking lot is all going to be paved and curbed with the two-way entrance and exit to Troy Hills Road. Each home is going to have a single garage plus a parking spot in front of the garage. I believe the total parking spots on site were something like 18, if I remember correctly. I'm looking for that number for you. Yeah, 18, not counting the handicap spot, 19 was the handicap spot.
While we're waiting for that, it might be helpful to put those plans up on the screen. Nora, could we have John McDonough enable the share screen?
And while we're doing that, I'm going to make one correction. It's 18 parking spots. I think I said 19. I apologize. Okay, John, Joe, you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if you look at the site, you can see the homes are all front entrance garages. There's parking along the homes in the front, and then there's parking on both sides with a large open area for the ability to turn around and maneuver. Plenty of room for a dump truck to pick up the trash and recycling area. And the underground detention system is on the next page, John. But it's on the right-hand side, and we have an inlet in the parking lots. Everything is pitched to the inlet to catch all the water and put it into an underground detention system with an overflow that leads towards the rear. Oh, and I apologize. The roof leaders for the homes are all connected, and they go into a riprap area just before you get to the edge of the wetlands buffer, which will then just keep feeding the wetlands with the water that's always gone that way.
Fred, if I may interrupt for a second, can you please define the date of the plans and whether or not it was submitted earlier to the full board?
It should be 9/24/20 is the plan we should all be looking at. It should be fourth revision. So were you all on the same page?
John's not.
No, John's is older. I can tell. It looks like, John, what are you on, the revision?
Yes.
You may have to mark these into evidence if it's something that we're concerned about the date.
Right, let's mark. Fred, you want to mark the plans that you're looking at? What's the date on those again?
Yeah, my plans are dated 9/24/20, fourth revision.
We'll mark that as A1 for this evening, please.
Okay, you're going to do it as a set, all 3 pages as A1?
Yeah. Fred, do you have this electronically?
I'm sorry, what was that, Joe?
Do you have this electronically and you can share?
If I can share it, I'm going to try it. I got it. I got them all. I got PDFs of them all. So let me see. the share contact button. Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
Your contact.
Okay, I got to get the drawing again.
Anybody think we would ever be in a situation like this a couple of years ago?
How about a year ago?
No comment.
A couple of years ago, you said we'd all get on tablets.
I never thought so.
Okay. I got a copy of the page 2 of the drawings up on the screen right now. Can everybody see them?
To share your home screen.
Okay.
Do you have multiple screens on your computer?
Right, Mr. Hofker asked you if you had multiple screens.
No. I just have everybody's picture along the bottom. There we go. Is that it? It's sharing now.
We got it.
Okay. This is page 3 of 3. You can see the drainage and the grading on the right side, soil erosion protection on the, on the left side, soil erosion protection on the right side, and all the details. As I was saying, all the roof leaders are connected by underground piping and drain to the northeast into the wetlands that's on our property. And then the parking lot is collected by a catch basin in the parking lot and led to an underground detention system. We're using the infiltrators.
Sorry, Mr. Miola,
It's going to be collected on site.
Mr. Miola, I can see this display, but it looks like one of my grandkids' school art things. I can't read anything on here. So can you use your cursor to point to me where you're talking about on this display?
So maybe you can make it a little bigger for us.
Zoom in a little bit, it'll help.
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm
There you
doing.
go. That's helping. Okay.
How's that? Is that better?
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Here,
you.
I'm going to move the cursor around again. Here's the pipes connecting all the roof leaders with the riprap overflow out into the wetlands. And then all the parking lot is connected by an inlet in the parking lot. Everything is tilted to that inlet with an underground detention system at that spot.
One silly question. Is there any calculation with the number of structures going in and the water running off all these roofs? How much more water is going into that wetland?
I don't remember if we did outright calculations or not, but the site previously had a horseshoe driveway and a masonry shed. You know, it's obviously less impervious, but I don't know if it's that much less impervious.
The final engineering will be done in connection with the bifurcated site plan, isn't it?
Yes.
Mr. Miola?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Appreciate it.
Now, Mr. Miola, are there any bulk variances associated with this application?
None. We meet all of the requirements for the setbacks in the zone. So the only variance we're asking for is the use.
Impervious and building coverage are met?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, the building coverage is 15% required. We're at 10.3. And the maximum building pavement is 30%, and we're at 27.5.
And I have no further questions for Mr. Miola.
I have a question. Would this be considered a major development, this project? I focus on the use part of it.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah, I would think not, Chaz, because the area that we're using for the homes is much less than an acre.
I would agree with that because it's a residential application.
I'm sorry, what was that comment?
If it's a residential use, you pretty much relative to major development, it has to be more than 1 acre of disturbance.
So somebody tell me what that means.
Yeah, it's a difference of whether you have to meet water quality and quantity or just meet quantity. And because the area that we're disturbing is 115 by 143, it's less than an acre, even though the site total is like 1.1 acres. We're not disturbing, we're only disturbing less than half the site. So therefore, the total disturbance doesn't reach the 1 acre threshold.
Is that the answer?
Yes.
Mr. Holloway, do you agree with it?
Yes, the threshold is 1 acre of disturbance, and we're well behind that. So I have no problems with this as far as it does not have to be considered a major development. It's not relative to state regulations.
Can I just comment on that? Regulations take effect. And would it become under the new regulations? Because the new regulations are tied to a development application. A variance application doesn't require completeness. So the completeness aspect will come into play if this application is approved.
Correct. That's I consider this a bifurcated application where we're still contemplating the site plan details.
Yeah, the reason I'm making this comment, I think the answer to whether it's a major or not is still to be discussed. I think you and I can talk about that, Chance.
Okay. I know if it was a residential, the quarter acre additional pervious would kick in, but the RSIS basically says that if it's residential, the 1 acre governs, and you don't consider that quarter acre anymore.
I'm not sure of that. That's why I want to discuss it.
Okay, we can discuss it.
Because I spent half the morning listening to some lawyers talk about it. So let's.
Sure, give me a call tomorrow. We'll discuss it.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Miola?
I have no further questions for Mr. Miola.
I was asking Jeff.
Oh.
I guess not.
No. I have no further questions.
I had commented before you got on earlier, Mr. Miola, on the intensity of the development. You had this big tail on this property that basically allows you, makes the proposal compliant with the R3 standards. Do you have any idea for the portion that you can develop what your coverage is? Which would basically be that piece that you're showing on the screen now.
I haven't calculated. I can calculate it. I'm going to tell you now, looking at it, if you want to stay within that first portion of the property, which is approximately a half acre or less, it's probably 75, 80% covered.
That would be my guess as well. And the basic fact is that's the only piece you can use. The other question is, in terms of very emphatic about the wetlands, do you have the permits in hand now?
I believe you do.
You didn't file them. I'm looking at my file. I don't have them.
Okay, I'm just checking my file to see if we have the actual permits.
Because if that wetland moved at all, then the back of these buildings has to move forward. And, you know, I don't know what it does. You're way over in the number of parking spaces required. But, you know, it's speculation if we don't know where this boundary is. Because if you recall,
I believe
you weren't involved with the temple at the corner of Troy and Baldwin, but the wetland boundary on that property was adjusted, I don't know how much, over a number of years.
Yeah, I believe the wetland.
I would like to add one thing here. Wetland delineation was done, approved by the NJDEP, and it is registered with the county record also.
All right, somebody has that paperwork. You're supposed to submit it to the township with your application. I don't want to drag this out, but we need to know that there's a certainty here.
Okay.
We can provide that as part of the site plan application, Mr. Chadwick.
You have to ask the question. I think it's critical to the use proposal to know that the boundary that you show in this plan is in fact correct.
Understood. Mr. Miola, have you found the document to allow you to confirm that you prepared these plans in connection with that approval?
Okay. The wetlands was designated and submitted to the state by John Peel. I'm just looking to see if he sent me a copy of the final approval.
I just signed the final approval.
Answer the question.
Mr. Joe, I would like to add, I just sent an email of approved final site plan to Nora, Mr. Fred, and John McDermott. If somebody can bring that up on the screen, we can see it. I'd already submitted to Nora the PDF copy, and I can submit the actual physical copy also. If somebody can bring that on the site, then we can see that.
Who do you want to be the presenter now?
John McDermott. John, I send you the email with the final approved plan also for the wetland perspective. So if you can be a presenter and show that thing, it will be great.
One second, everybody. I'm just opening up the email here.
So O'Neill, can I ask a question unrelated at the moment, just to know notification? Is there going to be a affordable housing component of this property?
No, Mr. Chairman, under section 430-436, this application would be exempt from providing a affordable unit because there's already a single family home on the site.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while John's getting that email, Mr. O'Neill and I and John McDonough and I discussed this, and that is contained in the township's regulations. They allow property owners, if there's a house there, to deduct the unit from the ultimate proposal. So in this case, under the affordable housing rules, it's less than 5 and they have no requirement. On the other hand, they're seeking a use variance, and there's provision within the statute that you can talk about the fees. In the fees on this plan would be 1.5% of the assessed value for affordable housing, which could be increased by 6-fold under that rule. So you're going to need to address that as well. The township ordinance does not address that issue.
So what are you saying, that discretionary?
There would be some compensation in lieu of a unit, is that what you're saying?
Yes. There's any residential development, unless it's inclusionary, which means it has a set aside for affordable housing units, pays a developer's fee. And for residential development, it is the assessed value of the project, building, land, and all improvements. And that's times 1.5%. However, where you have an increase in density, the state affordable housing statute allows for increase in terms of compensation. Compensation meaning developer's fees, which goes to the Township Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Well, that's only effective if the local municipality adopts that provision, Mr. Chairman.
It's part of the statute, I believe it's part of their settlement. Didn't they adopt all the agreement, all of the, what was it, 95?
I'm looking at the ordinance that they adopted. I didn't see that provision in that. The settlement was very specific.
Mr. Chadwick, do we have any say or determination in that number?
Yes.
What if it was less density?
If this was complying in the planning board, the answer would be no. Because it's a use variance, the answer is yes, my opinion. But I don't think the affordable housing documents are extensive. And I did not participate in behalf of the township in those settlement agreements. So it takes me a little longer to find it than maybe Mr. O'Neill, who did. I don't think we can brush it off. I think we need to finish the research in part that falls in Chadwick's court, and we can get that done later on.
I agree with that because I'm not ready to say absolutely that it's not in that agreement. It is. I'm looking at it across my table right now. It's pretty thick. So I'd like the opportunity to go through it again.
Joe, I looked at it and I said, okay, there's the catch-all. And I couldn't put my finger on it now, so I don't want to hold everybody up.
More to come.
Okay.
I mean, I think we have to answer the question, because if we don't, when you get to the construction department, you're going to wish the answer had been accomplished. Because they're the one who collects the fees.
I didn't mean to take us off track. I just wanted to know what we were dealing with. If it's an item that we have to pen till later.
I don't think you took us off track. I think it's a discussion that we may have to have later because Mr. Chadwick brings up a good point. I mean, here we are, the applicant's asking us, right, to bulldoze a single family house and make it so intense and intensify the use of that property with a dense development. And everybody's quabbling whether it's major development or major not. And then if you think about it, do we really have if there's no affordable housing component in this, I mean, is there really a housing crisis that we have to put up 5 townhouses and knock down a single-family unit?
My issue is that I might like the project, and from what I see, I do, but if you gotta pay, you gotta pay.
And I don't want to again distract Mr. Chairman off this, but looking at the structure and this crazy thing, it may not have any bearing on our decisions tonight, but how old is this structure? The single family home that's there?
Does anybody know?
It looks like it's from the 70s, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's before that to me, so that's my question.
That's way before the 70s.
I was gonna say that's way before the 70s.
50s, 60s.
All right, well, it looks good.
Well, no, it does look like that. That was my point. I guess the current owner of the property is obviously not concerned that there's any historic structures preservation issues on the to bulldoze that property or that structure.
Right, but the structure that's proposed is definitely not going to be congruent with
No,
the
I
majority
understand that.
of
I
that
understand that.
street. And
Well, we can discuss the conditions of the street with Mr. McDonough. We'll show you that that pocket of homes is has really no historic value and it's pretty distressed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Neill. That's why I would agree with that. Looks that way. Just want to check. Thanks.
And I live around the block from that area, and that block needs help.
Just to put a fine point on what Mr. Chadwick was saying, we will comply with local regulations and the settlement that was entered into with the township and fair share housing. Mr. Chadwick and I will coordinate as to what exactly that says. What it says is what it says. We're not going to argue with that. We'll comply with whatever fee is necessary to be paid here. But the settlement was drafted up so as to not include every residential development that was done in town. Because you really, when you're doing something this size, the economics don't work out for providing the affordable housing unit. So that's where they drew the line.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Good.
The other issue was Mr. McDonough was going to show the fruits of wetlands approvals.
Yes, he already had that up on the screen.
Oh, he did?
I'll put that on now, John.
I'm sorry, do we have the wetlands or not?
Yes, we do.
We're switching experts. We're going to want to swear Mr. McDonough in.
And why don't we go ahead and swear him as we on the screen?
Mr. O'Neill, are we switching experts?
Can we find a date on this thing?
Looking for it. I can't read it.
So this is done. This is approved sometime in December of 2019. If you go on the right side bottom, Mr. John McDermott, the date is visible.
That's the date of the plan, not the date of the approval.
What was the date of the plan? I didn't see that.
December 2019.
Okay. Well, I guess you can make a big assumption the approval of by DEP was after that, so it's still valid.
Yeah, it's still.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody going to give
Let's get Mr. McDonough sworn
board
here.
for their files, correct?
Yeah, we'll provide this. And I get it also.
Any more issues for Mr. Miola before we go to Mr. McDonough? Mr. McDonough, I can see you. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board is true, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
I recognize you. I know you've appeared before this board and testified before it. Since we last saw each other, are your licenses still in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
Go ahead, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. Let's just, before we get into your planning proofs, and we're probably going to want to get Mr. Mystery up to show the layout of the plans before we get to you. But could you just discuss the exhibit that you put up that was provided to you by Mr. Kesenwala?
Sure. The wetland delineation, letter of interpretation. Mr. Miola could probably elaborate on the specifics of the plan, but again, it is something that has been submitted to DEP in accordance with the wetlands regulations. And in that regard is an official document in terms of the state designation of wetlands on the property.
I'd mark that as Exhibit A2 for this evening, Mr. Hernan.
So done.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. We'll get right back to you. But Mr. Mystery's got the beautiful pictures that we want to get to, so.
Got it.
If I could jump back to and call Mr. Mystery, Mr. Chairman, if that's all right.
Let me just ask if there's any members of the public that have any questions on testimony given by Mr. Miola / Mr. McDonough.
No hands raised.
No hands. Okay, you can proceed, Mr.
Mr. Mystery, who will be our architect for this evening, if we could have him sworn.
I don't see him on my.
You need to talk, Yogesh.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go. He should pop up.
There he is. And his right
Thank
hand
you.
is already up. You swear the testimony you're about to give before this board is true, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And sir, have you ever testified before this board or any other boards in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have in Parsippany.
Okay, and your licenses are still in full force and effect?
Yes, they are.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any objection to admitting Mr. Mystery as an expert in architecture.
No, he's appeared before us before. Thank
you. Mr. O'Neill.
Mystery, could you go ahead and show us these wonderful renderings and the layouts that you've prepared for this application?
Sure. If someone can allow me, oh, there it is. I'll share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, it came up.
Are we
Okay.
introducing any of this into the
This is
record,
going to be a
Mr. O'Neill?
rendering prepared by Mr. Mystery. We're going to mark this as A3 for this evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mystery, can you describe it?
Yes, I'll start with this. This is Exhibit A3. This is a 3D color rendering prepared by our office. Essentially, it's a view from sort of the front left corner along Troy, looking back onto the property, and you're looking at the front faces of the 5 townhouses. Essentially, these are sort of almost identical 5 units, kind of side to side of each other. Each unit is about 22 feet by 51 feet deep. It's 2 stories plus a basement. The ground floor has a 1-car garage and an entry porch, as well as a driveway. So each homeowner would have two spaces to park immediately in front and inside the garage. On the ground floor, there'd be a living, dining, kitchen area. The second floor would have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and the basement is just a utility and storage area. Each unit is about 2,186 square feet. The height is in conformance with sort of the residential zone. It's less than 35 feet. It's 27 feet, 10 and a half. And then the exterior finishes are what you see, generally be what you see here. There's a mix of stone, siding, some panels and trim. So I think it's definitely be sort of an attractive addition to that street. That street is a mix of various sort of single-family homes, as well as there's a new temple going up, and the back end of this, the backside is more of a commercial area. So I think it's residential in nature. I think the scale of it is would fit in with that neighborhood. I think we also tried to mix up the fronts where, there's some ins and outs that create porches and a little bit of three-dimensional relief on the facade. So I don't want to get into too much detail, but I know this is sort of a bifurcated application, but this is the proposal of the 5 units architecturally.
Quick question for you. The property is right up against wetlands that we've been discussing. Is that going to impact the basements at all?
No, wetlands doesn't necessarily mean a flood zone. Wetlands just means, there's kind of an area for kind of water to drain, or there's certain species of grasses. So, we haven't done full site investigation, but we don't think that would be an issue. There are other properties with basements in this area.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a perhaps higher water table than normal if it's right up against the wetlands.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we'd have to do some soil borings that if there is a high water table, would either make that a crawl space or reduce the height of the basement or something. So,
is there a homeowners association?
Not at this time. I don't. I think that was something we had discussed with the owners, but I don't believe that's been fully thought through.
It'll be fee simple, 5 fee simple units.
Yeah, I'm planning for fee simple only just now.
What will the ownership look like? Is it going to be a real estate trust? Is it going to be a C Corp? What is it?
Condo association. Condominium.
No, I got that, but okay, so it's going to be a condo association on the deed, correct? Is that?
All right, Mr. Casablanca.
Yeah, I'm getting into more detail for that, but I'm planning for the fee simple townhouses, which is implemented by the Palmar builder also near the Bunton border. I'm trying to follow that, and I'm getting into more detail. I can answer that question once I have it, but it will be a condo association with the fee simple structure as such.
Let me interrupt a second. We don't have any subdivision lines to have a fee simple marketing plan. So,
yes, it's going to be condos. It's not going to be individual lots.
Your client just said your client just said he wants to do fee simple.
He actually said both, which is why I said it hasn't been resolved yet. He said condo association with fee simple.
Let's put it this way. He doesn't have the option for fee simple at this juncture.
No, they're not row homes.
There is no subdivision plan.
That's right.
So there would have to be some association that controls the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
The fact that it's less than 10 condo units is a totally different filing requirement. In fact, Joe, do you actually have to file with DCA?
I believe you still do. Yes, you do.
You do. But it's a totally different document.
Yeah, it's not as extensive. I'm pretty sure about that.
But the requirement, if the plan is to be fee simple and condo association, then we've got to see some lot lines.
Well, I guess we'll coordinate with our client, but right now there is no subdivision proposed.
Okay. Okay.
You're going to need an entity also to take care of the underground stormwater system.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's a common parking lot too. I mean, it's the whole.
There's whole maintenance issues. Everything needs to be addressed.
Yep. I don't know whether the overall design is going to be commented on by John McDonough.
I think John, we'll talk about that to a certain extent, but any questions for that are for Mr. Mister.
Mr. Chairman, the concept plan I have has a fairly large rectangular blacktop surface in the front of 5 buildings, 5 units. It would seem to me that there is a better design solution than just paving from the front of these buildings to the front property line.
John, is that a question for me? I'm sorry.
It's did you think about some other way of configuring the front door of these properties? I mean, effectively is a big blacktop surface is their front yard.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, it's a matter of vehicular circulation, John. I think, you know, we have to get cars to the, you know, to the garage, to their driveway. And, you know, when you do that, you have to have sort of this island in the middle. And then we have parking on either side. So really, it's a circulation path to get to the townhouses and be able to park on either side. So, you know, we can't just have a wide driveway along Troy.
Do you ever think of a one-way system?
Yeah, we did look at different concepts. I work with Fred on this and in developing different layouts and different concepts and how to, you know, manage this the most efficient way. And, you know, of course, we want to reduce the blacktop as much as possible too. But this is the way that it just kind of worked out the best. Yeah, I know there's a, you know, sort of blacktop in front, but that'd be no different than if you had a road in front of a, you know, private development. And, you know, it is the access to both, you know, parking on either side. There's sort of a trash area, and then access to the 5 units. Without, you know, if you see other townhouses in other areas, you know, you would have a road right up against it, and each one would have its driveway connected to that road. We can't do that with sort of right off of Troy and then be able to back out onto Troy. You know, in order to accommodate the additional parking, we have to have that, you know, the way we situated that layout.
Yeah, you can't do it because you're stacking so many units in what used to be, or under this plan, it was going to be, used to be a single family home. I mean, you know, yeah, of course you can't. You're putting a pound of units into an ounce bag.
And I don't want to sound negative, but with all due respect to the comment, normally this kind of structure might be built on an already existing road. Therefore, I would agree with you, but in this case, you're going to call the blacktop, which is a different situation.
Where's the driveway? It's off the image here.
Yeah, it's sort of in the middle here. It could, if you I just, you know, unfortunately, I also have the older version of this, but just referring back to the, you know, the 9/15 version of this of Fred's plan. Hang on 1 second. The driveway's right down the middle here along Troy, and then, you know, the houses or the townhouses are directly in front, and then that view is kind of looking here. You're seeing these 3 spots, and the entrance is kind of flipped there, but you know, that's the driveway to get into this way, get into the right, and head-on parking for the units there.
Can you go back to that rendering again with the cars?
Yeah, I think it's just a little clipped off, right? Should be right around here somewhere there.
So that silver car on the left, that's got enough room to back out and do a K-turn to get out of the driveway?
Yes, yes. I mean, Fred's looked at all the sort of the engineering, but yeah, it's got enough, you know, space there. I mean, if you look at, this building is backed up to essentially where the old house was. If you look at the old house that's there now, you're about, what is that, 68 feet there? 68.5 feet. We're at like 70.8. So it's essentially the same, almost the same line.
Yeah, the parking lot looks better from that angle than the other angle.
It does until you account for the cars coming from each individual unit if they have to back out to exit, ingress, egress the property. Well, mainly exit the property. But where that silver car was, yeah, they could do the K-turn there, but if that first unit is coming out, I could see a few collisions there. And even on the other side of the property, the same story.
I mean, this parking lot really is only for the residents and their visitors, so it's not the general public kind of just driving through this area. You only have one connection onto Troy Road, so I think the frequency of a resident pulling out at the same time someone else, I think would be minimal. It's not sort of a retail shopping center where you have, cars constantly in and out.
Residents backing out of the driveways can back away from the parking lot, from the sideline parking and avoid any potential butting into another car.
I mean, you commonly see townhouse developments where there's driveways really up against the road, but I think to me this would be a safer condition where instead of trying to back out onto a road, you're backing out into a private parking area and then front ending onto Troy. You pull out of here, do a K-turn, and then you go forward onto Troy. Versus if Troy Road is right along the driveways here, then everybody would be backing out onto Troy Road.
Yeah, but on the property itself, it's perpendicular. So everybody's going to be making their own K-turns. Usually in a parking lot situation, everybody's kind of aligned and going in one direction or backing up in one direction.
If you look at the driveway on the right.
Feedback on Nancy's microphone.
It might actually be Mr. Mystery. I'm looking at the driveway on the right. That car has to back out, hook left all the way, and then hook right to go out of the driveway. It's not life or death, but it's definitely a really inconvenient way to get out of that driveway.
You mean there's like number 5 here, you're saying, or?
No, against the house. Looks like 105, like that driveway. To the right.
The one in front of unit 105.
How does that car back out?
It pulls back, and we deliberately, if you notice, the curb line doesn't line up with the parking lines. There's an offset in there of about 5 or 6 feet, so it gives the car enough room to get its tail into the right and then go around. Okay. The point I was going to make is we did look at the possibility of putting an island in the center to provide a little landscaping, but you still got to have 24-foot aisles for the cars to make a right-hand turn in and out of their parking. So you could end up with an aisle that's about 10 foot wide by about maybe 50, 60 feet long. And then you'd have a one-way configuration, come in, go to the right, come in, go to the right, come around, and then go back out to the left. And then the aisle in the front would only be about 15 feet wide because you only need it for one way. That is a possibility. We did look at that. And while I'm talking, the one thing I wanted to mention, because I know one of the board members had asked, I found my property detail report from Parsippany. The home was built in 1942. I'll supply a copy of it to Nora.
Thank you for that, Dave. Appreciate it.
Fred, you provided a document.
Yeah, I have a property detail report.
There is a lot of going on in this testimony.
This is IT. If you could please
Mute themselves if
your
you're
volume
giving direct testimony.
and mute yourself when you're not speaking, please.
I think this is a good time for a 5-minute break, okay? Let's take a 5-minute break, everyone.
This is Earl IT. I have muted everyone. So please unmute yourself as you speak and mute when you're not speaking. Thank you.
Gotcha.
How we doing with people coming back? Can't see everybody because of the diagram on the screen.
Bernie's back.
I see Bernie, I
Davey's
see
back.
Davey.
Davey's back.
I see Mr. Parikh.
Davey's back.
Mr. Mystery, let me give you a word of advice for your future plans. After watching the NYC, whatever the hell that show is on Channel 4, they're not called master bedrooms anymore. They're called primary bedrooms or something like that. Master bedrooms is politically incorrect.
Yes, master.
It doesn't bother me, but it just, you know, they make a point of it. So just a little aside, nothing critical.
Yeah, I did read that myself too. I think this was done prior to that reading, but I did. There were some other things in there too, that article. Can't remember exactly, but yeah.
I guess master bath is also a no.
Even his and hers closet is a no-no.
Yes. I think they're supposed to be nondescript or
yeah,
whatever.
Big and small.
Well, you can't name it until they declare what they are.
That's why they're all new. Boy, can everybody hear the feedback on that?
I can hear you, Bob, but you're echoing.
You hear the echo?
Very bad, yes.
All right, this is IT again. If Mr. Mystery can lower his volume, it'll probably correct the problem. I think that's what the issue is.
I just lowered it.
Okay, we'll see if that works.
That worked.
You're the best, Earl. You got this whole thing under control.
I'm trying.
Can we have a roll call or something? If you're not here, can you tell us you're not here or something? Nora, can you tell if everybody's back?
Yeah, give me a second.
Call a roll, yeah.
Everyone's here. I could see them.
Nora, are there any members of the public here?
No hands displayed.
Mr. O'Neill, do you want to proceed?
I'd like to continue with Mr. Mystery if we can.
What did you say, Joe?
Was I muted? I wanted to say I'd like to continue with Mr. Mystery's testimony. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Why am I echoing? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, was there any more questions for me, or
You could
I'm not
describe
sure
the
what-
layout of the townhomes for us? You have the exhibit up right now?
Yeah, I mean, I can run through this again. These are just the floor plans. let me just quickly run through. This drawing is sheet A2.01 of the drawings we had prepared and were submitted as part of this application. They're dated 9/21/20. I don't know if you need to mark this, but these were submitted as part of the application.
They were submitted.
Yeah. So what you're looking at here is they're the floor plans of the building. On the bottom left, it says first floor plan. All the units are either identical or mirrored on themselves, but the garage is in the front. You can see the car. You come in, there's a stair that goes to the second floor, and then the sort of the back end of the townhouse is a kitchen, living area, dining area, and there's also a small deck at the rear of the property. And then on the second floor here, so the second floor plan, again, they repeat, but when you come up the stairs, there's a washer dryer closet. There's I won't call it a master bedroom, but the main bedroom with its ensuite bathroom towards the rear of the building. And then there's 2 bedrooms along the front, and then there's a common bath in the middle. Again, they kind of repeat in each unit. And then on the basement level, there's a portion out for the garage, but the balance is just the utility and storage basement. Yeah.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Questions by the board?
Yeah, Chairman, this is Casey Parikh. Mr. Mistry, is there anything you can do to change the front parking lot so it gives, maybe there is some opportunity for landscaping or something?
Yeah, I think we could look at that again. You know, that's a little bit more on the Fred's work there, but you know, we could look at that together and see if we could provide some kind of island or some relief in that pavement area. I think that would be a good good thing there, as long as the circulation for the vehicles still works.
Did I also hear at one point someone said that there was over parking?
Parking wise, we meet the minimum requirements, and I believe we have a couple extra for visitors and so forth. I mean, the RSIS, I believe, is 2 point something for 3 bedrooms, but we're meeting the requirements, and there's a couple extra for visitors.
Yeah, if I may, Josie, by code, following RSIS, we have 13 spots. So there are 5 extra spots. We just thought it was good to have the extra parking. But again, you know, if we want to get down and try to get some more landscaping and paved area, we can eliminate up to 5 spots and still meet RSIS requirements.
Are you sure about that? Because as I counted in the beginning of your presentation, Mr. Miola, you said 18 spots. And the only way I come up with 18 is if I'm counting the garage space in each of the units. Am I miscounting?
No, you're absolutely correct. The RSIS code says a garage is 1 spot, and you can have 1 spot in front of the garage. So each garage gets you 2 spots. 1 in the garage and 1 right in front of it.
And how many bedrooms again per unit?
There's 3 bedrooms per unit. We need 2.3 parking spaces per unit with 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
Is there any way?
I think you're overestimating.
How many school kids we have set up?
I wouldn't know the answer to that.
Mr. O'Neill?
We'll leave that for discussion with Mr. McDonough.
I did have one question regarding there any planned electrical vehicle charging stations proposed?
No, there is not, Chaz, but I'm sure that they can accommodate them in the garage from the power panels. Just like they in homes today. If somebody has an electric car.
Having gone through a significant amount of applications with regard to certain areas of the town where housing was built to the extent of the footprint, the building envelope, and having to grant significant variances for decks. If we were to approve this, can we do a deed restriction that would say that the decks that are there is all you get? We're not going to entertain any larger decks. Anybody be able to answer that question?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we, of course, we resist the idea of doing any kind of deed restriction on this beyond the normal restrictions that are imposed through the resolution itself. Deed restrictions are a blunt instrument for applying board decisions to properties. As you get down through the years, it becomes more and more onerous as the properties and conditions change. So we would, while not completely saying no, we would resist that thought. There's probably
Okay,
another
Mr.
mechanism
O'Neill,
we
I
could
just
do.
wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Mr. Chadwick, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I think if the board approves this project, I think you should limit the approval to the simple 5 units permitted, and that this footprint is not binding on your approval. Because I think a lot of the things that we've talked about in terms of the view from the roadway, meaning basically is a large parking lot in front of 5 units. It's pushed to the back. And it's right up against the wetland boundary on one section. There's a little, I guess Mr. Miola, that's a screen. Are those little trees, that line of circles? Is that what that's supposed to be? On your site plan?
No, yeah, no, John, that's the edge of the wood lines. There's woods behind the property. That's where the wetlands is.
So
that's right. If you look at right, it says wood line.
That's the wood
That's
line.
just symboling. That's the beginning of the woods, the wood line boundaries.
Okay. All right. A lot of the design issues, the building is basically got a flat back and a flat front with a little articulation in terms of that box window, but not a whole lot. I didn't want to get into a lot of discussion on design, but Mr. Chairman, I think you're right. I think I don't know at the end whether or not we're going to need deed restrictions or we can solve it with some better design features.
So if I'm hearing you, John, if we were to grant the use variance here, this plan would be conceptual only and not sealed in wax. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, you've got 3 major issues. I think you've got the view from the street that we beat up pretty much. You've got whether or not this is going to be it's no such thing as a major stormwater management project, and to the extent that will alter things, I don't know. Because now the policies are to have these rain gardens all over the place. And I don't know where you'd put them in this plan. I think you got to discuss at some juncture the fact that the leaders for this building seem to be some kind of an architectural feature. I'm not so sure that doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but I'll leave that to the board. And finally, what is the responsibility of the board in terms of the fee structure, in terms of the affordable housing requirements? Those are outstanding. Oh, I'm sorry. The last thing is the applicant himself, I'm sure, wants to discuss whether he wants the option of fee simple marketing on these on this project. Because currently, right now, he does not.
On that last point, is that something that needs to be decided before the board, John? Because,
Well,
that's really not something.
if the board approves it, and it's a condo project, and that's it. And the paperwork will have to be developed to prior to we sign any plans so you can get building permits. If it's going to be a simple condo, then that's a totally different animal. We don't have a fee simple condo project presented to us. We discussed this an hour ago.
Can we proceed with the next witness at this point? At least maybe get to Mr. McDonough's testimony. Is that in line with where we are right now? Somebody, Mr. O'Neill?
I would like to proceed with Mr. McDonough if that's possible.
Knowing that we have open items, is that correct?
Yeah, I have some general questions, but I would like to hear Mr. McDonough first before asking them.
Okay, Mr. Berkowitz.
Mr. O'Neill, do I need to change presenters?
Back to Mr. McDonough.
So, Mr. McDonough, you've already been sworn. I'll remind you, you're under oath. Before you proceed, either you or Mr. O'Neill, can somebody remind me what you introduced as Exhibit A2 specifically?
Sure. A2 was a copy of a wetland delineation map prepared by Fred Miola and stamped by NJDEP to authenticate the wetland delineation. So it's a wetland verification map.
And just the date on that, please.
That I'm going to defer to Mr. Well, actually, let me see if I can pull that up.
2019.
Thank you, Joe.
December 9th, 2019.
And if it helps the record, yes, it's dated 12/9/19, and it is stamped as approved by NJDEP as file number 1429-19-0003.1.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm good.
Now, Mr. McDonough, you have had an opportunity to familiarize yourself with the application before the board this evening.
Yes, very much so.
You are familiar with the local ordinances and master plan?
Yes, I am.
So I wonder if you could go ahead and compare this application to those documents and give us your findings.
Sure thing. And with the chair's permission, I'd like to share the screen once again.
You are the presenter.
Up to A6, is that true?
A6, for the record, is going to be a 7-sheet exhibit. It's the usual batch of aerial and ground photographs that I prepare as part of my presentation. And The first page right off the bat
One
shows,
second, I apologize. The last exhibit I have entered is A3, which is the 3D rendering from Mr. Mystery.
We have we marked a exhibit with the document containing the information concerning the history of the house that was provided by Mr. Miola to Ms. Jolie. I think that was A4. I guess I skipped one there. I'm sorry, Mr. Hernia.
So A4 must have come in when all the background noise was interfering. Tell me again, Joe, what that was, please.
That was let me see if I can pull that document up here. Hold on one second. I don't have it, but that's a document provided by Mr. Miola showing the history of the home being from the 40s.
Oh, okay. And that was 1940 something that the home was constructed, correct?
Yeah, I asked Mr. Miola to drop in there and help me out.
Yeah, 1942 is what the property detail report shows.
Great. So A5 then will be what?
It should be Mr. McDonough's packet.
Okay. Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
so again, for the record, A5 is going to be a 7-part exhibit, a 7-page exhibit, and we'll start with the very simple tax parcel map that gives you the geographic configuration of the property outlined in yellow. We're talking about a single tax parcel here that sort of has this, I'll say, Z-shaped configuration. Very unique shape piece of property, certainly in the context of the surrounding land use context. Block 726, lot number 15, with frontage on Troy Road that doesn't quite extend out to Route 46, but certainly has influence of that commercial corridor and the commercial uses that are on it. This is a site that sort of precedes the build out of the area. If you go back to those aerial photographs, shows what this area looked like back in the 1940s. It looked a lot different than it did today. And your tax cards do corroborate what Mr. Miola said. The tax card actually says the site was constructed in 1942. Well, things were a lot different for this particular home in 1942 than the landscape that we look at now. And I'm flipping you to sheet number 2, which is I'll say A5 sheet 2, which is a current aerial photograph representation of the condition of the property and the surrounding land use context. Subject property contains a dwelling in the front, which was constructed in 1942, and that semicircular driveway, U-shaped driveway in the front. During its time when this house was constructed, if one were to occupy the house, one could look all the way across to the south to where the Mazda Brook development presently is. And this was one big cleared farm field. I'm not sure if it was actually a farm field or not, but it was a big clearing. All of these homes that you see on the opposite side of Troy Road, all of the commercial development that you see behind the subject dwelling were not there, or the subject lot were not there. Route 46 is there. Route 80, which would be just to the south off of this exhibit, is not there. So this was a site that had full vantage across a nice wide open field, well across where Route 80 would be today. The neighborhood has certainly grown up around it, as you can see, evident by the big box retail and the variable retail buildings that have come in along the back of the property. This larger retail center along Route 46 that you see in the upper left-hand corner didn't come in until the 1970s or even the 1980s. And some of the things that are starting to evolve in the neighborhood, you can see the large open space at the corner of Troy Road and Baldwin Road, which has been approved for a Hindu temple that is now under construction. Again, that has a significant presence in the landscape. The subject site has connectivity to Baldwin Road. And if we were to look just off this particular photograph, Smithfield Park, which I still call a gem or one of the jewels, not only of the town, but the county as a whole, is within reasonable walking distance of this facility. It's less than a quarter mile away. It's a 10-minute walk, easily accessible by foot. We can certainly talk about the pedestrian connectivity here. There are a lack of sidewalks, but then again, I believe as part of the Hindu temple. Sidewalks will be coming in. Once you work your way over to those office buildings on Baldwin Road, there are sidewalks there as well. On the opposite side of the street, we do have open land. I think that is wetland constrained land. I know at one point there was look and consideration of multifamily townhouse development on the opposite side as well. It hasn't manifested. That could well be due to environmental constraints. And if we were to look just off map here, off photograph where I have the words aerial map, there is a very large contractor yard. So the key point here is that there is a confluence of uses nicely commingled at this particular location. Even though we are in the R3 zone district, we are not in what I would call a pure R3 neighborhood. There are influences all over on this particular site that are not, I'll say again, pure R3 in nature. Just off to the left here, we do have the new multifamily development behind the Presbyterian Church that we all see when we drive down Route 80. So again, just reflecting I'll say the transforming nature of the landscape from when this home was originally built, whatever that was, 70, 80 years ago. Next frame shows in color coding under the Mod 4 land use classification system, pretty much what I just said, that we're at the confluence of varying land uses. What you see in red would be non-residential uses. What you see in gold are residential uses, and of course here predominantly single-family residential. The key point again is we're dealing with this irregular shaped land, this oversized lot, which notwithstanding the fact that it is constrained in the back, does count towards lot area. And you can see that if we were to draw or count the land area within the 200-foot ring, predominantly it would be commercial or non-residential land. So I think we can talk about this lot as being somewhat transitory in nature between non-residential and then lower density residential. Multifamily is always a nice transitional type of land use. And I think that goes along the configuration and the context of where the site is located here. And so this is what your zoning shows. We're going to have to reconcile this with your zone plan and with your master plan as we go through the proofs that are involved. But basically what we're looking at is a site that is on the edge. It's on the edge of the B2 zone. It's on the edge of the O1 zone, both being non-residential zones. And again, I'll say the core of the R3 zone extends onto the other side of the street, where we do have a substantial build out of more conventional R3 lots and dwellings under Patrician Court. We saw the Patrician Court neighborhood when we were working on the ARIA International Indian Dance Studio on the confluence of Route 46 and Troy Road. So again, that location, that subdivision is skewed to where this proposed development is. With respect to the R3 zone, this particular site is again on the edge or on the fringe. It is not in the core or the heart of the R3 district, and certainly not in the heart of what we see over in Patrician Court, where that subdivision has manifested. So another attribute that lends to the particular aspect of this site, which is always important when we look at site suitability and consider the use variance mechanism. Frame number 5 just shows the condition of the property. I don't even think that driveway in the front is paved, if I remember right. You see the condition of the building itself, which through our applicant has actually said it has fallen into poor condition. There were some problems with the use along the way in terms of some incident reports before this applicant was there, which also may imply that there's some sort of unsuitability of the house for the location for single family. You get another glimpse in frame number 6 and another angle in frame number 7. So all of that is just to show the condition of the property, the front of the property being ideally suited to accommodate, I'll say, the scale of the development that's before the board. It is flat. It's not constrained by slopes. It's generally cleared, free of environmental constraints like water, wetlands, and those type of things. And then those nice trees that you see in the back of the site would frame this development, would help to buffer the development from the surrounding landscape. And again, I think create a very nice visual environment. What the applicant is proposing here, as you have seen, is an intent to create an attractive new development, something that will provide for new and conventional housing. So to reconcile what the applicant is proposing here with the one variance that is before the board this evening, the applicant is asking the board to move on a use variance to allow a multifamily development, a multifamily residential development in this single-family zone, the R3 zone. We have actually put together a planning report that puts forth the justification for the use relief. And I know the board has laid condition out there that the actual form of development is something that may be, I'll say, vetted during the site plan process. In terms of particularly looking at the use, I believe the applicant has given enough adequate evidence to show that the site can accommodate 5 units here. It can be parked with substantial, if not complete, conformance with the bulk requirements of the R3 zone district. The height of that building, the coverage of the building, the parking, the setbacks, all would comply with the requirements of the R3 zone district. So in terms of the shell, you can always talk about the look and the feel of the building. The shell of the building complies with the mass and the scale of that which could be realized under a conforming single-family house. With respect to the relief that the applicant is seeking, we've run this through both the statutory positive and negative criteria under the Medici test. And to just put forth what we put in our report that we submitted to the board, we found 4 special reasons that would support the positive criteria. Number 1, the project promotes the general welfare because the site here is particularly suitable for the use. The site is, as we said, it's transitionary in nature. It forms this nice bridge or this link between non-residential and residential uses. And the project is an effective blend, I would say, of the land uses that are around it and that have influence on it. Number 2, the project promotes the planning goal for new housing stock and a variety of land uses in appropriate locations, again, to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. New housing will benefit the public with modern amenities, energy efficiencies, and a contemporary living environment. Townhouse development here in Parsippany and Morris County and the state as a whole remains a very strong market sector, favored by individuals who don't want to have that burden of a lawn or landscape or property maintenance, such as landscaping and snow removal. Special reason number 3, the project does promote efficient land use and a desirable visual environment. There is a certain economy of scale whenever we involve shared walls or shared aspects of a development. We know that it's not the developer that absorbs those costs. It always gets transferred over to the home buyer. So in that regard, this provides for a more, I'll say, economical means of providing housing for the public at large, and it is a favored market as well. Lastly, we find that the project promotes or advances several purposes of the municipal land use law, especially Purpose A, the promotion of the general welfare, Purpose G, to provide for a variety of uses in appropriate locations, and again, underscoring the suitability or the appropriateness of this particular site. Purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment. And then finally, Purpose M, as I said before, the efficient use of land. Counterbalancing that with the negative criteria, the relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public. This is a relatively small scale boutique type of development here. It is not excessively high or, as I said, excessively large in the context of the zone. The applicant has demonstrated that the site has adequate carrying capacity to accommodate the size of the development that's here in terms of meeting the bulk and the parking requirements of the zone. Lastly, in terms of looking at the vision for the area as articulated in your master plan, you have a brand new master plan out here, just adopted in 2020, that continues the R3 designation at this particular location. So the way we reconcile that is the way we would reconcile any use variance. The use variance remains an appropriate mechanism when we are dealing with sites on a site-by-site basis. We are not looking to introduce townhome development into the R3 zone. We are not looking to change the zone designation here. We think given the particular attributes of this site, it falls nicely within the rubric of the use variance mechanism, to the extent that it does relate to a specific piece of property, a large property with a unique history that predates a lot of what's around it. And again, given the surrounding land use context, I think the board could put a nice rope around this application compared to other sites that would not cause it to be precedent setting. Certainly, this applicant will vet out the site planning issues when we get to that phase, but purely from a use standpoint, I think there is enough evidence on the record by the predicate of testimony that the applicant's witnesses had put forth before me. Architecturally, engineering-wise, the site will function safely and efficiently. And in that regard, I believe the statutory criteria for relief of the use variance aspect are met here, and approval is warranted. With that, I'll pause. I'll open up for redirect or any requests from the board.
Questions by the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have some questions.
Go right ahead, Mr.
Mr. McDonough, can you describe the property on either side of this subject property?
So I'm just going to go back to the share screen here. It's a little bit easier to help everybody orient. So I'm back to sheet A2 I'm back to sheet 2 of exhibit A5, the aerial photograph. Now, we probably should have shown more of what's going on further across the street, but that lot that's immediately opposite, that would be lot 725, lot 25, looks to me to be undeveloped open space, undeveloped land.
Okay.
Further to Mr. Berkowitz's question, the two houses, the two properties, does it appear that these houses were all built together at the same time?
As I look back at the aerial photographs, it looks like there was a triplet here. Yes, the three. The fourth one came online later. Right? But yes, these three houses overlooked what was a very large field at one time.
So they're single family houses, all three of them, correct?
All three in a row are single family, correct. I don't know if they're rentals. I don't know if they're owner occupied. I didn't research that. I know
Well, in fact, occupied?
Yes, the two on either side appear to be occupied. That's correct.
I believe they were owner occupied when the applicant on the corner, the Temple came. I believe that members of the public came and they were owner occupied.
Yes, as part of the ISCON application, I believe that was affirmed then. That's correct.
And the house to the left, as I look at the picture, was a newer house?
The house to the left is showing as coming online. It's really after these three houses were constructed in the 40s. I don't want to misrepresent the date. I'd have to go back to my aerials to see when that actually came in, but I know it's not there in the 1940s.
And that's currently occupied?
I believe so, yes.
And there were houses going out to Baldwin Road at one time. They have been recently demolished. Isn't that correct?
Yes, there were two homes. That's a very good point. There were two homes that were on the ISCON property, block 726, lot 12, and lot number 11, which were vacant at the time of the ISCON application, which is probably about 10 years ago, and have been knocked down since.
Can I just clarify?
Kind of a through road, right? Troy Road didn't end across Baldwin. It continued beyond there, correct? And it was probably a semi-major thoroughfare.
Before Route 80 came, I do believe Troy Road carried all the way through, yes. As I say, Route 46 was there. Route 80 was not there when these homes were constructed.
Mr. McDonough, the view I see is a beautiful picture with a yellow line around it. The property we're discussing faces Troy Road and then backs up.
Yes, it backs up to commercial land. I think, did I lose Bernie?
Mr. Willens, I think you went mute.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. My point being here is we've had residential properties along the side here. Now we have a lot of commercial property. And so it would be congruent with or consistent with what's going on in this neighborhood. Is that correct?
Mr. Willens, I apologize. I only caught pieces of that question.
Okay. I'll start over.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking at the picture, which is up on my screen right now, which has a yellow line around a lot of property. The subject property we're talking about, and then behind that goes all the way back to property that borders on a lot of industrial. So all this area is converting to commercial area. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think that comes out in the color coding.
Yes,
where-
thank you, Mr. McDonough. That was going to be my next point. Everything around this is red, which is commercial, except the property to the left and to the two right. The people that have the commercial or the residential properties on either side of this property, have they had any exception to this development plan?
I have not heard of anything of any issue with it, and I don't know that I'm able to even see if there are other people online. I can tell you, I personally and through the applicant have not heard of any
Thank you.
concern.
Thank you very much. So what we're doing is cutting a piece out of this middle of, well, it's 4 residential properties and converting it to something else, which that's our decision, right? Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, this is Nancy Snyder. So to that point, one of the important things I think to keep in mind is the fact that this section faces Troy Road. And if I'm not mistaken, that's still a 2-lane road, right? So the red is all facing 46. And of course, that's what, a 4-lane highway each way. And so regardless of that, we still have a significant presence of residential areas and lots. Despite the red. And again, it's all facing Troy Road. I don't know, are we looking to, and I don't know, this is more of a question for the board and it's rhetorical, but I mean, are we looking to make Troy Road a little mini Route 46 for those to cut through and, access Baldwin without having to go through the whole 46
We're not asking for
Some
commercial
handle.
property.
They're not asking for commercial property.
Oh, no, I know they're not asking for commercial property. But a lot of the rationale behind why this is such a great application centers around the fact that the surrounding area is all commercial. And I'm just saying that here we have a lot where right now a single family house is, proposed to be demolished for 5 townhomes. I mean, I don't even think we even visited the traffic impact on this 2-lane road. Did we?
Well, Mr. McDonough, this is a residential application. This is a buffer to the commercial area from the residences off of Patrician Court, isn't it?
That is correct. One of the unique things about this particular site, I don't know if you can follow my cursor in the line that I'm tracing right now, but you can see that this site, unlike those 2 residences.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, unlike those 2 residences that would be to the east or to the right, which do have some nice depth to them. I know the subject site has some nice depth to it as well. But in the immediate environs behind the subject site, we have the intrusion, I'll say, of that commercial development that we don't see on the other lots. Certainly that intrusion is there on the newer home to the left as well. But I went back and looked at aerial photographs, and it doesn't really do service in the photograph that we're showing now, but for whatever the prior land use was, there were cars stacked all in the back here, right up against the common property line. So I think the point is commercial land use has a direct influence on this particular site that we may not see on the other homes. If we're looking for some sort of a distinction between this site and I'll use the phrase that we've run into before, sort of a domino effect type happening here. I think the board can make a distinction between this lot and the lots adjacent. I agree. There are influences on that single family home, similar to what this application is seeing as well. But
Thank you,
clearly,
Mr. Madonna. That's a good point.
Let's cut back to something that Ms. Snyder said about making Troy Road a thoroughfare. Troy Road is a thoroughfare. I don't know what, if you guys ever travel this around rush hour, but sometimes I used to go in the old days to a little strip mall over here, and I would come across Baldwin and go down Troy Road and make the right into the back of the parking lot. There's a tremendous amount of traffic on Troy Road. The thought that 5 townhomes is going to create a buffer to anything is left. I would rather see this whole area go commercial like all the rest of it. You're carving out one little piece of a significantly commercial area and saying, "Oh, we're going to do wonders for this area by putting 5 townhomes in." You're not going to do wonders for it. You're not going to change the traffic patterns or anything. People are still going to use Troy Road as a cut through. So I think Mr. McDonough and I always understand where you're coming from, but I don't disagree. I don't agree with you here. I don't think that's an answer that makes this property more acceptable to be five townhomes. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be 5 townhomes, but the argument that it buffers is ludicrous. It doesn't buffer anything.
Mr. Chairman, I actually live, a mile from this spot, and I travel Troy Road pretty regularly. And in my opinion, it's an eyesore. There's a lot of dilapidated or houses in disrepair. And when you travel Troy Road, you might see the back of the strip mall where JC's Bakery used to be, but it's really not when you're on Troy Road, it does not appear to be an area that is turning to commercial. It really seems to be more residential. And I think with the temple that's coming there, I think there's going to be a demand for the houses. And from someone who sold some properties in the area, especially a townhouse development is very much in demand on this side of town. And I think it would be, I'm not adjudicating this case, I'm just stating my opinion because I think I disagree with both you and Ms. Schneider. I think it would be an improvement to the street to have 5 townhouses. And I think if you travel up that street, if you had 30 townhouses, it'd even be a bigger improvement.
Yeah, Scott, I see what you're saying, but when I think of a buffer, and I've heard Mr. McDonough very eloquently describe buffers in other projects, where you go from perhaps single-family homes to townhomes to office or to business. You're taking a multifamily condo and squeezing it between single-family homes and calling that a buffer. It's not a buffer. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's not a beneficial project right now, but it's not we can't let that buffer, the definition, it's not a buffer. That definition doesn't fit here because it's not
I wouldn't
really
call it a
buffering
buffer.
anything.
I think it's just an appropriate, I don't think it's something that should be commercialized either. I think this would be a better use for it. And I really believe that there will be a strong demand for it. I think the project actually, to me, makes a ton of sense. Now, you might have issue with the parking, and that's a discussion to have, but I think there'd be a demand for it and a need for it.
There's no doubt that area
made more sense than Mr. McDonough has with regard to to justification of the property. My contention was that this was not the be all and end all to a buffer for this area. Okay. I'm not saying it's not a good project, and you've made a lot of good points that, yes, there's going to be a house of worship around the corner. These people could, whoever lives there could potentially walk there. They could walk to Vitale's. They could, take their car around the corner and drop it and walk home. It's close to a lot of things, but it's not a buffer. It's not a buffer.
I agree with you.
Right. And right, Mr. Jaskowitz, I think this area does need some rehabilitation and some refurbishing and renewal. But the thing is that doesn't necessarily mean that 5 units have to be on this lot. I mean, just the traffic queuing alone, I think, is going to be a disaster.
Nancy, to be honest with you, I have never, ever, and I'm on there at least once a day. I've never had traffic. There's cars, but there's never
Jaskowitz,
traffic.
I'm talking about actually the parking lot. The parking lot, I think, is too intense. I think it's too intense. That's not to say townhouses shouldn't be there. I just think that this is too dense of a development for this lot, this small lot.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here for a minute on that discussion. The density of townhouses, is that part of our decision tonight?
Well, yeah, we definitely have to deal with density, I think.
Yeah, so let's just think about that for a minute. To what point on this application that we're trying to approve, to set aside, to table, to ask for more information on? Because I'm getting confused here.
Mr. Willington, at this point, I think we're going to ask for another date to hear the rest of this application. It is 10:01, and I think we put in a full night. Nora, do you have a date to carry this case?
April 7th.
April 7th.
I think this is a good drop-off point, because I think the applicant has heard some of our comments, and they might want to come back with some additional information or modifications or some questions for us or et cetera. Mr. O'Neill.
If I may, I just want to confirm, we do have a couple of issues we need to address. Mr. Chadwick and I need to coordinate on the FICOA fee impact issue. We need to take another look at the parking layout, and we need to get a little deeper dive into the condo structure itself. And I feel like I'm missing something, Mr. Chadwick.
John, is there anything else? Is John still there? Mr. McDonough, can you take the drawing off the screen?
I got it. I'm sorry. I muted myself. I think, Joe, it's really a client fee simple condo.
Yeah, I need to get that structure straightened out with the client.
Because
we'll get that.
It's a fee simple condo. That's the general market. And
members of the board, is there anything else that you want to see addressed before the next meeting, or more information before the next meeting?
I just remember Mr. Chadwick also saying something about the affordable housing.
Yes, he said that.
Okay, I missed that then. Okay.
Mr. O'Neill, is April 2nd okay?
We have to be carried without further notice, Mr. Chairman?
Without further notice, and you will give us whatever extensions are required, is that correct?
We'll grant all necessary extensions through the end of April.
Okay.
Oh, and Mr. Chairman, did we also talk about school district impacts?
Well, I asked a question about a projection of, that they could come up with a projection of normally how many children come out of 5 townhouses, 5 two-bedroom townhouses. I was kind of like, I think everybody went deaf and dumb on that question.
Well, they're 3-bedroom townhouses.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to answer it's John McDonough for the record. If you'd like me to answer the question, I can tell you what the Rutgers study says in terms of the demographics. It's pretty
bring
simple.
that to the next meeting, okay? Can you bring that to the next meeting?
Okay.
Anything else, Nancy?
Not that I could think of right off the top. I think we covered it.
Okay, motion to carry this case to April 2nd, no further notice, and Mr. O'Neill will give us an extension through April 30th.
So moved. So moved.
Second,
Is there a
Snyder.
second?
Second,
Any
Snyder.
discussion?
I believe
All in
it's
favor?
April 7th, not 2nd.
7.
Oh, I'm
7th,
sorry.
April 7th.
Yes.
And
2nd
April
is a
7th,
Friday.
correction.
7.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Nora, is there any other business?
No, there's none.
No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Snyder.
Any discussion?
Good night,
All
all.
in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Have a nice evening and a nice
Good
weekend.
night, all.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night, David. Good night, John.
See you in the morning.